The little girl stood at the edge of the crowded cafe with a metal crutch tucked under her left arm and a worn backpack hanging from one shoulder, scanning the room with the kind of quiet desperation that only children try to hide and rarely succeed at. She was maybe 8 years old, with two thick braids that had started to come undone, a yellow raincoat still dripping from the November downpour outside, and the absence of her right leg below the knee visible beneath the hem of her jeans. Every table was taken. The Saturday morning rush had packed the place wall to wall with laptops and strollers and coffee cups and noise. Every adult in that cafe was busy. Every adult except one. Marcus Day had been coming to Brood Awakening on Clement Street for 3 years, always on Saturday mornings, always at the same corner table near the window where the old radiator made a knocking sound that he had come to find comforting. He came here because it was the 1 hour of the week that belonged entirely to him. No permission slips to sign, no cartoon voices coming from the living room television, no small hands kneading things. Just his coffee, his notebook, and the particular piece of a man who had learned to treasure silence the way you only can after years of beautiful, exhausting noise. He had 2 daughters at home. Amara was 11 and Priya was 6, and he loved them with the full weight of everything he had. Their mother had left when Priya was 14 months old, and Marcus had been the whole world for both of them ever since. He was writing something in his notebook, not noticing the room around him, when the small voice arrived at the edge of his table like a question mark standing in the air. "Excuse me, sir, can I sit here? There's nowhere else." Marcus looked up. The girl was looking at him with large brown eyes that were trying very hard to appear unafraid, her crutch planted firmly on the tile floor, her chin lifted just slightly in the way children lift their chins when they are trying to look braver than they feel. He glanced around the cafe. Every other chair was occupied. He looked back at her. "Of course," he said simply, and pulled the chair out from across the table with one hand. No hesitation, no looking around to see if anyone was watching. Just the chair, pulled out, offered. She settled into it with practiced ease, propping her crutch against the wall beside her, and shrugged off her backpack with a small exhale of relief that she probably did not know she made out loud. "Thank you," she said. Then, "I'm Cleo." "Marcus," he said, and went back to his notebook. She ordered a hot chocolate from the server who came by, then carefully unzipped her backpack and pulled out a library book, a green plastic pencil case, and a small spiral notebook of her own. She opened the book. He wrote in his. The radiator knocked. The cafe hummed around them. For several minutes neither said anything, and there was something about that shared silence, 2 strangers reading and writing across a small table while rain slid down the window beside them, that was already more than either had expected from a Saturday morning. It was Cleo who spoke again. She said it without looking up from her book, the way children sometimes say the things that matter most, as if the words are easier when you are pretending to be busy with something else. "People usually move their stuff to the empty chair when they see me coming, so I can't ask to sit down." Marcus put his pen down. He looked at her. She was still looking at her book, a faint tension in her jaw that a less observant person would have missed entirely. He had spent 6 years studying the faces of 2 small girls, learning how to be human in a world that was not always gentle with them, and he did not miss it. "That happens a lot?" he asked. She shrugged one shoulder. "Enough." He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "People get uncomfortable around things they don't understand. That's their problem to fix, not yours to carry." She looked up at him then, quick in assessing, the way children look at adults when they are trying to decide whether the adult actually means what they just said or is only performing kindness. Whatever she found in his face, she seemed to decide it was real, because something in her shoulders released itself by a few degrees. "My mom says the same thing almost," she said. "Where's your mom today?" he asked, and kept his voice casual so she would not feel interrogated. Cleo looked back down at her book. "She's at the hospital. Not sick," she added quickly, glancing up again as if anticipating alarm. "She works there. Saturday shifts. I'm supposed to wait at the library, but it closes early today because of a staff thing, so I walked here because it was the next closest warm place." She said all of this in the composed, slightly formal way of a child who has given logistical explanations to adults many times and has learned to lead with the information that prevents unnecessary worry. "She knows where I am. I texted her." Marcus nodded. He did not make a fuss of it, did not pile on reassurances or expressions of concern that would have made her feel small. He simply nodded as if the situation was entirely reasonable, which was exactly what she needed someone to do with it. He asked if she wanted a sandwich while she waited because he was going to order one anyway, and she said yes please, and for the next 40 minutes they sat together in companionable nearness, reading and writing and occasionally speaking in the unhurried way of 2 people who have stumbled into an unexpected ease with each other. She told him she was in 3rd grade and that her favorite subject was science and that she had lost her leg 2 years ago to bone cancer and that the cancer was gone now but the leg stayed gone, which she delivered as a plain fact with no invitation for pity, clearly having long since decided that pity was the least interesting response available. He told her he had 2 daughters and that the older one loved science too and that he worked as a high school history teacher and coached the debate team after school. She asked him what debate was and he explained it and she said it sounded like an argument with rules and he said that was exactly what it was. It was a small, unremarkable conversation on its surface. It was the kind of exchange that would not have made anyone looking over glance twice. But under the surface of it something genuine was moving, the way a current moves beneath water that looks still. Marcus was remembering what it felt like to be the kid in the room that nobody scooted over for, the heavy-shouldered invisibility of it, and he was thinking about Amara and Priya and the specific kind of loneliness that finds you in crowded places. Cleo was experiencing something she did not yet have the language for, which was the relief of being treated as entirely ordinary by someone who clearly understood that she was not ordinary at all, and had chosen to respond to that knowledge with a pulled-out chair and a sandwich and no performance of heroism about any of it. At one point a man at the neighboring table, leaning over with the well-meaning clumsiness of someone who has been working up to a comment, looked at Cleo's crutch and then at her and said, "You're such a brave little girl." He was smiling the wide, gentle smile of someone who believed he was offering a gift. Cleo smiled back at him politely and said thank you and then when he turned away she looked at Marcus with an expression that was not quite eye-rolling but was its near cousin. Marcus pressed his lips together to contain something. "You've heard that a lot too," he said quietly. "Every single day," she said. "Does it bother you?" She thought about it seriously, which he appreciated. "It bothers me that people think surviving something makes you brave," she said slowly. "I didn't choose to be sick. I didn't do anything special. I just didn't die." She paused, and then added with the unguarded frankness of a child thinking out loud, "My mom is brave. She worked double shifts for 8 months while I was doing treatment and she never cried in front of me even though I could hear her at night sometimes through the wall." Marcus was quiet. Outside, the rain had softened to a gray drizzle and the morning light on the wet street had that particular silver quality that sometimes makes ordinary things look as though they are being seen for the first time. He thought about the nights he had sat outside his daughter's bedroom doors in the hallway of their apartment, not wanting to wake them, not ready to go to bed himself, just needing to be close to the sound of them breathing. He thought about the specific courage of parents who hold themselves together in the daytime so their children can feel safe, and how that courage is the kind that goes almost entirely uncelebrated because it is invisible and constant and never dramatic enough to inspire a stranger's comment in a cafe. "Your mom sounds remarkable," he said. "She is," Cleo said, with a certainty so complete it landed in the room like something solid. A little before noon Cleo's phone buzzed and she looked at it and started packing up her things with efficient speed. "She's 10 minutes away," she said, and Marcus nodded and finished the last of his coffee. She put on her backpack and stood and tucked the crutch under her arm, and then she paused. "Thank you for the sandwich," she said, "and for not moving your stuff to the empty chair. Thank you for the company," he said, and meant it in the full, unperformed way that she had by now learned to recognize in him. "Tell your mom she's doing a great job." Cleo smiled at that. It was different from the polite smile she had given the man who called her brave. It was unguarded and bright and arrived on her face as if it had been there all along, just waiting for the right moment to come forward. She made her way toward the door through the crowded cafe, and Marcus watched her go, the crutch steady and practiced under her arm, the yellow raincoat moving between the tables, her 2 unraveling braids swinging behind her. He sat for a moment after she left, hand resting on his closed notebook, looking at the chair across from him. The cafe was still full and loud and warm. The radiator still knocked. He thought about what he would tell Amara and Priya that evening at dinner, because he always told them one thing from his day, one real thing, not how work went or what he ate but something that had actually reached him from the inside. He thought about what he would say. He would tell them about a girl named Cleo who walked into a crowded room and asked a simple question and got a simple answer, and how the simplest things are sometimes the most important ones. He would tell them that bravery is not surviving hard things, which happens to people, but rather the way you treat people who are having their hard things right in front of you, which is a choice. He would tell them that one pulled-out chair, one ordinary Saturday morning, one hot chocolate and one sandwich and 1 hour of being treated like you belong somewhere completely, can matter to a person in ways you will never fully know. He would tell them that he went to the cafe for 1 hour of peace and came home with something better than peace, which is the quiet, uncomplicated satisfaction of having been exactly what someone needed without making it into anything larger than it was. When he walked out of the cafe he saw them on the sidewalk, a woman in pale green scrubs still wearing a hospital badge, tired around the eyes but luminous in the specific way of people who run on love and stubbornness, and Cleo beside her, talking fast with her hands the way she had not done once inside, animated and loose in the way children go loose when they return to the person they are safest with. The woman looked up as Marcus came through the door, and something in Cleo's face or gestures must have indicated him, because the woman looked directly at him and nodded, a single slow nod that carried in it everything she did not have the words for in that moment and possibly did not need them for either. Marcus nodded back, then he turned up his collar against the November drizzle and walked to his car, and the morning felt full in the way that mornings rarely do, quiet and unremarkable on the outside and carrying everything on the inside, which is exactly how the best moments arrive and exactly why, if you are not paying attention, you can miss them entirely. If this story reminded you that small kindnesses carry the largest weight, share it with someone who needs to hear that today. Drop a comment below and tell us, what is one moment when a stranger's small act of decency changed your whole day? And if you are still here, thank you for being the kind of person who stays until the end.